What's the biggest scam you've ever fallen for? Maybe you bought fake concert tickets or got tricked by an online shopping site. But losing a few $100s is nothing compared to what I'm about to tell you. In 1995, a bank lost $242 million buying an airport that never existed. Not a single runway, not a single building, nothing. Just empty land and a bunch of lies. How does someone convince a major bank to spend hundreds of millions on something that's completely fake? That's where Emmanuel Nwude comes in. This guy managed to sell literally nothing for a price that today would be worth over $500 million. And the craziest part, he almost got away with it. But this isn't just a story about a really big scam. It's about how even the smartest people can be fooled when someone knows exactly which buttons to push. When someone knows how to use your own greed against you. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to break down exactly how Nwude pulled this off. How he created a fake airport out of thin air, convinced serious bankers to hand over their money, and what finally brought his whole scheme crashing down. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll never look at a too good to be true deal the same way again. So who is Emmanuel Nwude? Back in the 90s, he wasn't some random scammer sending emails from an internet cafe. He was actually a big shot at Union Bank of Nigeria, one of the country's biggest banks. Yeah, this guy was sitting right at the top, making huge decisions about money every single day. He knew exactly how banks worked, how they moved money around, and most importantly, how they could be tricked. But here's what made Nwude different from your average fraudster. He knew people. Like, really knew them. He could read a room better than anyone. He knew when to act powerful, when to seem humble, and exactly what to say to make people trust him. The timing was perfect too. This was the mid-90s in Nigeria. The country was growing fast. There were new business deals happening everywhere, and foreign companies were rushing to invest. Everyone wanted a piece of the action. And Nwude, he saw an opportunity in all this chaos. You see, in times like these, when there's money flying around everywhere, people get scared of missing out. They see others getting rich quick and think, that could be me. Nwude understood this better than anyone. But his real genius, he didn't just understand money. He understood greed. He knew that even the most careful banker could be tempted if the deal was big enough. And he was about to prove it with the biggest fake deal of his life. The funny thing is, before this airport scam, Nwude had already done smaller cons. But those were just practice runs. This time, he was going after something much bigger. He wasn't just trying to steal a few $1,000s. He wanted hundreds of millions. And he had the perfect target in mind. A Brazilian bank that was hungry to make money in Africa. A bank that had no idea what was about to hit them. Want to know the craziest part? The airport he was about to sell. It was based on a real project that was actually being planned in Nigeria's capital. Nwude just borrowed the idea and turned it into one of the biggest scams in banking history. Talk about how Nwude actually planned this whole thing. Because selling a fake airport isn't exactly something you do overnight. First, he needed to become someone else. Not just anyone. He decided to pretend he was Paul Ogwuma, the guy running Nigeria's central bank. Pretty bold move, right? It's like pretending to be the head of the Federal Reserve. But Nwude had done his homework. He knew there was a real plan to build an airport in Abuja, Nigeria's capital city. So he wasn't making up a completely crazy idea. He was just stealing a real one and making it his own. Here's where it gets clever. He didn't just write a few fake emails. He went all in. Fake government papers, check. Official-looking stamps, got them. Letters that looked like they came straight from the central bank. He had those too. And his plan was simple. Find someone who had a lot of money and wouldn't know enough about Nigeria to spot the lies. Someone far away who would be excited about making huge profits. That's when he found Nelson Sakaguchi from Banco Noroeste in Brazil. Nwude must have thought it was perfect. A banker from the other side of the world, eager to make his mark with a huge international deal. The trap was set. All he needed now was to make Sakaguchi believe that he was about to get the deal of a lifetime. And Nwude, He was really, really good at making people believe things. He even set up an entire fake office, got people to play different roles, made up whole committees that didn't exist. This wasn't just some guy with a fake email account. This was next-level stuff. The best part of his plan. He knew that once people started thinking about the huge profits they could make, they might not look too closely at the details. Greed has a funny way of making smart people do dumb things. And Nwude was counting on exactly that. So how do you actually convince someone to spend $242 million on an airport that doesn't exist? Let me show you how Nwude did it. He started small. First email to Sakaguchi was super simple. Hey, there's this amazing investment opportunity in Nigeria. Want to hear more? Classic move. Don't show all your cards at once. Make them curious. And Sakaguchi, he bit. Then Nwude turned up the heat. He told Sakaguchi, look, we're building this massive airport in Abuja. Get in early, and you'll make a killing when it's done. But here's the thing. If you don't move fast, someone else will. And this is where it gets wild. Nwude didn't just send emails. He invited Sakaguchi to Nigeria, took him on tours, showed him random construction sites and said, see, it's all happening right here. Remember, Nwude was acting as Paul Ogwuma, the head of Nigeria's central bank. So when Sakaguchi showed up, Nwude had a whole team of fake officials, fake meetings, fake everything. It was like a movie set, but Sakaguchi thought it was all real. The money didn't move all at once. That would have been too obvious. Instead, over 15 months, Sakaguchi kept sending payments, a few million here, always with the promise that the airport was just about to start making money. There were some close calls, times when questions got asked, but Nwude always had an answer. Need more paperwork? Here you go. Want to meet another official? No problem. He'd just get one of his friends to play the part. The whole time, Sakaguchi thought he was getting the deal of the century, making history, becoming a legend at his bank. Instead, he was falling for the third biggest banking scam ever pulled off. But here's the thing about big scams. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. And this one was about to come crashing down in a way that nobody saw coming. Here's where everything falls apart. And the crazy thing, it wasn't even Nwude who messed up. It was just bad luck. See, while all this was happening, Banco Noroeste was about to be bought by a Spanish bank. And what do banks do when they're buying other banks? They check everything. And I mean everything. So these Spanish bankers are going through the books, and they see these huge payments to Nigeria, hundreds of millions of dollars for an airport investment. And they're thinking, wait, what airport? They start making calls, real calls, to the real Central Bank of Nigeria, and the real Paul Ogwuma. He's sitting there wondering why people are asking him about an airport deal he's never heard of. That's when everything exploded. The Spanish bankers realize there's no airport. The real Nigerian officials have no idea what's going on. And poor Sakaguchi, he finally realizes he's been played. The police get involved. They start following the money trail. And it's not just going to one place. Nwude had spread it all over the world. Different banks, different countries, different names. But here's the real shock. When they finally traced everything back to Nwude, he didn't even try to hide. He basically said, yeah, I did it. So what? The Brazilian bank. Complete disaster. The scandal was so big, it basically killed Banco Noroeste. All those years of business, gone because they fell for a fake airport. And Sakaguchi, the guy who sent all that money, his career was over. Imagine having to explain to your boss how you lost $242 million on an airport that never existed. The whole thing was like a house of cards falling down. One small check by some Spanish bankers, and Nwude's perfect scam crashed and burned. But the story doesn't end there. Actually, what happened next is even crazier. So what happened to Nwude? Well, in 2004, the police finally caught up with him. And this is where it gets ridiculous. They found $125 million in cash just sitting in his house, like actual physical cash. The Nigerian court case was huge. It was the first big test of Nigeria's new anti-fraud laws. Nwude spent 6 months arguing that what he did wasn't even illegal. Can you believe that? In the end, he got 25 years in prison. But here's the wild part. He only served 5 years. And get this, he had to pay back $10 million. That's it. 10 million out of 242 million. What about the rest of the money? Nobody really knows. It's probably still out there somewhere, hidden in bank accounts around the world. But wait, it gets better. Remember how I said Nwude was a really confident guy? Well, in 2016, right after getting out of prison, guess what he did? He tried to pull off another scam, this time selling land he didn't own for $20 million. The bank that got scammed, Banco Noroeste, they never recovered, crashed and burned. All those employees lost their jobs because one guy fell for a fake airport deal. And Sakaguchi, the banker who fell for it, he disappeared from the banking world completely. Nobody's heard from him since. The really crazy thing, this scam changed banking forever. Now, when banks transfer huge amounts of money, they triple-check everything. They're terrified of another fake airport situation. But you know what hasn't changed? People still fall for scams every single day. Maybe not $242 million scams, but the same tricks Nwude used still work. You know what's scary about this whole story? It's not just about some genius fraudster or dumb bankers. It's about how any of us could fall for something like this. Think about it. We all like to believe we're too smart to get scammed. But Nwude didn't trick idiots. He tricked experienced bankers who'd been doing their jobs for decades. What made his scam work wasn't complicated technology or some master plan. It was simple human psychology. He knew people want to believe they're getting an amazing deal. He knew they're afraid of missing out. And most importantly, he knew that when people see dollar signs in their eyes, their brains often stop working. Look at what's happening today. Crypto scams, fake investments, phishing emails. They're all using the same tricks Nwude used. Make it look official. Create urgency. Promise huge returns. And wait for greed to do its thing. The numbers might be different. Maybe it's not $242 million, but the game is exactly the same. So next time you see an amazing deal or an investment opportunity that seems too good to be true, remember Emmanuel Nwude and his imaginary airport. Because in the end, that's what this story teaches us. The bigger the promise, the closer you should look. And if someone's trying to rush you into a decision, well, maybe take a step back and ask yourself why. After all, nobody wants to end up like Sakaguchi, realizing too late that their dream deal was nothing but hot air.